Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Assistant Chief Cody Rose. As you can see, Chief Freitag is not here this week. He's out of town doing some teaching in North Carolina. But just so you know, I didn't forget about him. He is going to still be here with us this week like he was last time I was on the show. So we want to make sure Freitag is seeing everything that's going on here. So this week we're going to talk about a little bit of volunteering and some of the stuff that firefighters do outside of our normal job and everyday work at the fire station. So one of the things that a lot of us like to do is volunteer our time, give back to the community. And one of those organizations is the Firefighter Angel Foundation that my wife and I started back in 2008. And that started with a small one-family event where the dad was diagnosed with cancer, and we went out and did a delivery at night and gave him some presents to the kids, and that evolved to where it's at today, to where we're doing a whole lot more than that. So we're going to talk about some of that today. And with me today, we have our guest is Kelly Lee. Kelly is on our Firefighter Angel Foundation board as a member at large, and we also have Tiffany Lavers, who's on our board as our treasurer. So I'll let them talk a little bit about what they know about the Firefighter Angel Foundation, how it all came about to them being involved with us and volunteering their time, which they do a lot of, and we're very thankful for. Kelly, you can go first.
Oh, thank you. So I met your wife about 4 years ago when I was working at the Humboldt Unified School District, and we at the district were receiving donations of school supplies, and Tammy had donations of school supplies, and so we figured, how can we give these to the families that really need them? And so we brought them all to the Family Resource Center at the district office, and we kind of opened the doors to the Family Resource Center and gave out, what we had. It wasn't everything, and it certainly wasn't backpacks, but we had school supplies to give to the families. And then we ended up the next year making it a little bit bigger, and we took over a classroom and again, had school supplies, had families come in right before school started. Then 2 years ago, we moved it to the cafeteria at the district office, and we invited some vendors from the community like the Food Bank and Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, to kind of give our families some resources, some community resources. And we gave out about 1,200 to 1,400 backpacks that were stuffed with school supplies. And it just has grown from that. Our goal was always to get to the Findlay Toyota Center and have twice as many vendors and give out twice as many backpacks. And I think we accomplished that this year. So
yeah, for sure. And one of the things that Kelly used to work at the school district, she doesn't anymore, but she's the one that basically brought that to us and said, instead of us doing separate things, which is what we've done a lot, and you'll hear a little bit about that in a minute, but instead of us all doing separate things, let's work together and make this great for Yavapai County instead of individuals throughout the county. So Kelly was very awesome at the school district and basically giving us direction of how can we be successful doing that. So
yeah,
yes.
I like that we grew it, and we brought in Prescott Unified and Chino Valley, and then you guys brought in the outer communities, and so we give to Will Hoyt and Kirkland and all of those locations.
Yeah, stuff too. Down south, and then we started doing some stuff with Camp Verde, which Tiffany can talk about because she's from that area, but stuff from Camp Verde and delivering down there and doing backpacks down there. But Tiffany?
So I was contacted, I think it's 5 years ago now.
That sounds about right, yeah.
By Tammy, Cody's wife. She contacted me and asked to meet. We met for lunch, and she told me about the organization and what they do, and asked if I wanted to be the liaison for the schools in Prescott. And so I took that on 5 years ago, and I was the liaison between the schools and the foundation to find families, talk to the families, figure out what they need for Christmas, what they're asking for, and then report that back to Cody and Sinette and Tammy and everybody else to shop for Christmas time. And then eventually, this past year, I then took on our treasurer for the foundation, moved back to, I don't know where
California.
Did she go back to California?
Yeah.
And so there was a position on the board that was needing to be filled. And so I jumped on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now I'm the liaison for Prescott and the treasurer for the foundation.
So, and part of the foundation too is having liaisons in areas. Obviously, that became too much work for Tammy and I and the rest of the board members at the time. So we said, let's have liaisons, because we had lots of volunteers that were wanting something to do. So creating liaisons in different areas. So we have now the Chino Valley School District liaison, Prescott School District liaison, Humboldt, and then also in the Verde Valley. So that has helped a ton of taking the workload off and dividing the workload and helping us be more successful, because they're coming up with things to help us be a little more organized and get things in the right places and less mistakes when we go and do things. So also, Tiffany's husband is a Prescott firefighter, and she doesn't know this, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the whole reason your name came up was because we were doing stuff with Prescott Fire, and they said, we know the perfect person for you to help out. And Mike happened to be there that day. He didn't say anything, but the rest of the guys there did. So Tiffany would be perfect for you guys. And that is now Sinette Trammell. She used to be one of our firefighters' husbands, but she was diagnosed with cancer and wasn't able to help us last year at all, and also hasn't been able to help us this year. She would love to be here, but she's in Mesa in the hospital. And
She's done some shopping this year.
yeah, she does some stuff when she can get out, but that's been very rare. And her husband, or her boyfriend now, has done a great job of getting that stuff and bringing it to us, or her mom, who's always with her. So she's still trying to be part of it. She would love to be here, but Tiffany has stepped up enormously, and yeah, definitely Tim and I could not do it without you, but thank you very much for that. So about the foundations, what have your guys' thoughts from your side of it? Where do you see the foundation going from here? We just had a big backpack event. Maybe you can touch a little bit on that, but where are we going to go from here?
I think that in the last 2 years, and COVID kind of put the brakes on growing our backpack event, but we still plugged along and did a drive-through event last year. But I like the progression that now we do our Stuff the Bus event, where we go to the Walmarts and ask for donations of school supplies or monetary donations to go buy the school supplies. We have a system now where we didn't have that before. It was kind of all over the place, and so we've kind of streamlined. We figured out what works, what doesn't work, and I think this year really showed that we know how to do this, and we know how to make the corrections for next year. And I think continuing that, getting more sponsors would be great. I don't know, we're going to run out of room if we have more vendors, but they're always welcome to come and provide services for our families. And I just think it's been great growth. We haven't gotten too big too fast, but there's always room to grow and make this even better than it is. I'm happy with it.
Well, and Tuesday's event had 54 vendors, and then we gave away almost 1,500 backpacks just at that event, and then another almost 400 went left to go to Will Hoyt and the schools.
Yeah.
And then we were loading up another 100 to give to Prescott School District, because so many were requested after the event was over, and I think we'll do the same thing.
Right, and we always have families that can't attend the event, and so they can reach out to their family resource centers at their district office and still be able to go get a backpack for school next week. Yeah,
and the goal with the whole thing with the backpacks is just to make sure that everybody is taken care of. So people that couldn't make the event, I've gotten several phone calls. Go to your family resource center, as Kelly said, at the school district, and each of them know how to reach us. They know how to get a hold of us if they're running out of supplies, and we will definitely make sure that we get them more and make sure everybody's taken care of before school starts next week.
I think the other great thing is when we have leftover school supplies, we then open it up for teachers. So we make sure that our teachers are taken care of and refill their classrooms, because that stuff comes out of their pocket every year.
Yeah.
And the family resource centers are located at each of the district offices.
Yes.
One for Humboldt is on Robert Road, and for Prescott is on Gurley.
Yes.
And then the one out in Chino's at the high school.
At the high school.
Yep. Okay. And one of the other things that we do too is the Christmas deliveries. I touched on a little bit about how the foundation started, and again, I'll let each of you touch base on that. But that's definitely that's the one that's the most rewarding when we get to do it. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that happens leading up to it, and it's a ton of work and makes you think on some days, like, why do we do this? Why do we put this much time into it? But the days that we go do deliveries, it's awesome to see the kids' faces and to hear kids screaming and jumping up and down, and parents just bawling and ecstatic that they're getting what they're getting, and that's what that's all about. But
I remember my first delivery that I went on, we did Prescott Valley first, and I wanted to ride along with you to see because I'd never done it before. And we pulled up to that one house, and we set the beacon out and sat afterwards, and I got like chills up my whole body. And you're like, you're hooked, aren't you? I'm like, yes. Dang it.
Same here. I think ours was 2 years ago. We went, and I took the girls with me, and it was just magical. It's magical for the families. Every volunteer walks away from it feeling good about what they just did. And it is a lot of work. It's, it's the shopping and it's the sorting and it's the organizing, families and what they need and the wrapping but it's just a great thing to go and do.
Yeah, and Tammy's making sure every kid has to get 20 to 30 gifts. So
yes.
We wrap socks individually from the shirts and the pants. They cannot be together.
No. I think we went into an apartment 2 years ago, and there were so many gifts you couldn't see the floor, and there was like 2 kids, and so we were like, okay, well, they're set. I think that like some of them were even out on the patio because there just wasn't enough room. So that's okay.
And then each of those we call it the golden item, but what's the wish list? And we usually ask the parents, like, if you could get anything for them, what would you get them? And it's been from trampolines to, we did a drum set last year in Camp Verde that was pretty awesome. But anything like that, we get that.
The
dollhouse,
yeah.
Bikes. So what family that you've been involved in, is there one family or situation that sticks with you that you remember that you'll never forget? There's a lot of them, but just one that was the one that stands out from the rest of them.
I'd have to sort through. I've been on so many deliveries.
I think the one where we went to the apartment was a single mom, 2 or 3 small kids, and you just know that it wouldn't have been possible without Firefighter Angel Foundation. And so it was overwhelming for her, I think, but it was, she was so appreciative, and it was just magical for the little kids. And so that was the one that stuck out to me.
I think I've got 2 that really, one was we delivered on Christmas Eve because the little boy was in the hospital. We couldn't deliver on our normal night. Yeah. So they sprayed the gun. We spent 2 hours at the house. Yeah. It was a long time, but it was amazing. He had cancer. Yeah. He was a 3rd grader, had cancer, and he was in the hospital doing chemo, so he wasn't out during our normal delivery. So we pulled it together and delivered on Christmas Eve. That was really, and then the one in Camp Verde where we again kind of scrambled to. Yeah. I got a call from Cody the day before and was like, "Can you do a delivery tomorrow?" I'm like, "Okay, we're doing this," because they didn't know if the dad was going to make it till the delivery date. I think those 2 are my biggest. And
you need to fill in on the amount of work it takes to organize those deliveries.
Yeah, there's like I said earlier, the behind the scenes stuff there's definitely a lot to it. But again, it goes back to just when we see what happens with these kids' faces and the parents. But so it goes from, we start with paperwork that goes to the schools. Usually the nurse at the school, sometimes it's different. Whoever we can, or the liaisons can connect with the best that understands what we're trying to do, starts there. Then they get it to the parents. The parents fill out this document. It basically is just asking for what's the needs of the child or the family. And then liaisons get it back. And then they got to make a phone call to the parent, because that basically gives us permission that we can speak with the parents now. So they got to make phone calls because there's more questions. And we want to be very in depth on this. We want to know if they want socks, what kind of socks do they like? If they want underwear, what kind of underwear they like? What kind of shirts? What are the favorite colors? We want to know that stuff specifically. So that takes a while for that all to happen. And then
sizes
and sizes, yeah, exactly. So
ages, all of that.
Once that's all done, then that's when it gets turned over to Tammy, and when Sinette was involved, and when she's back involved. But they get turned over, then they make a shopping list. Here it goes, and that's where Tiffany came in with that as well last year. But they make a shopping list. They go out shopping and get all that stuff, and then come back, and then we have scheduled wrapping days where usually it's 3 days, and we have volunteers come in and schedule blocks. It's usually 20 at a time, and it's usually 2 to 3 blocks each one of those days. And we just wrap thousands of gifts. They get put in bags, and then we put them up on the shelf at the warehouse. And then the day before the delivery, Tammy being who Tammy is, and it's right, but we got to pull all those down, and we got to count every gift, and we got to make sure they're all right and make sure that they're even throughout. We don't want one kid to have 10 and the other one has 20. So we got to do that. Then we put them back in there again, and then we get there on the day of delivery, and we do the same thing again, and then we organize it by the delivery schedule. So in the trailer that we have, we put the last delivery obviously in the very back, and then the first one in the front. But that's the day of the delivery. Then we usually go to where we're at. So the whole part of this is we want Firefighter Angel Foundation to be behind the scenes in this. The goal is to wherever fire district and whatever police department that we're in their jurisdiction or their area, we want them to be the headlines, if you will, of taking all that stuff. So we give them the stuff, and we're behind the scenes of here's the stuff, here's what you need, here's what you can take in, here's kind of what we've done. So we usually do a briefing before we do our first delivery with that organization and with the law enforcement that's there. And then we start doing our deliveries. And like Tiffany talked about, we have a little beacon or a strobe that we set out at the house. So the liaison usually goes ahead of time, sets that out. And then the train that's coming usually is several fire trucks, police officers, cars. There's usually 2 or 3 of them, our truck and trailer, and then all of our volunteers behind that. So there's 10, 15, 20 vehicles that are in our train doing our deliveries. So that's the whole process and how it goes through. We usually start that. We'd like to start that as soon as school gets back. So we contact the nurses, and that's next week. So in August, contact the nurses. Hey, here's what we're doing. Just so you know, most of the time, if we already know those nurses, we already talked to them, it's fairly simple. But there's a lot of turnover within the school district, as most people know. So getting the new people kind of up to speed on what we do and what we're looking for. And it's very unique to what the school district allows, because not a lot of organizations, I don't think any, get to do what we do with these families. Normally they just say, bring whatever you're going to give to the school or bring it to the resource center and they'll give it out. We have the luxury of being able to have that information and going inside these people's houses. So it's a lot of work leading up to that, but the goal is by December 1st, we have all the information, we have everything shot for, and we have it at the warehouse, and we're ready to wrap everything. So that's kind of the process that we go through in getting that. But again, without volunteers, there's no way. It started in our living room at our house back in 2008, and Tammy and her mom and myself and a couple other little people would wrap, but we couldn't do that today with the thousands of gifts. So that's kind of where it's at today. I think this past Christmas we delivered to 28 homes, which was amounted to just over 100 kids. So we're always open to expanding that. Again, it comes from funding. The funding that we get is all donations from the community, donations from the firefighter charities from Central Arizona, from Prescott, from Mare, and then when we go over into the Verde Valley as well. So with as many donations that we get in, then that's how many deliveries we can do. We were also fortunate this past year to get a grant from the Fiesta Bowl Charities, which was a godsend to us because of we're not being able to do fundraising with COVID and the pandemic and everything that was going on there. The fundraising was all shut down. So with that grant, that basically gave us the funds to be able to do our backpacks and be able to do our Christmas deliveries. So now that we're on the fundraising part of it, so we usually do 2 fundraisers a year. That's a pancake breakfast that we do at the fire stations. We do it on the same day. It's on the Sunday after Easter. We do it in Chino Valley at Station 61. We do it here in Prescott Valley at the training center, and we do it in Prescott at Station 71. We do that from 8 a.m. till noon. And the goal is, one of the things that we joke about the whole time, is who can make the most money. And we have texts and phone calls and pictures of stuff going back and forth of, I got more than you got more than me. But everybody understands that it's all in fun, and it's all for a good reason, or a good avenue to go back to the foundation. And it's ultimately going to the kids. Nobody within the foundation is a paid employee. We're all volunteers. Everybody that does stuff is the volunteers. So. And then we do the car show, and the car show is the Saturday after Memorial Day weekend. So that car show is at Stone Ridge, and we call it the car show on the grass. Not very many car shows are on the grass, so people love that and come from all over to do that. And that's probably our biggest fundraiser, because last year I think we had 120 cars that came, and the first year we did it, we had 46. I think our goal was to try to get to 50, and I think we had 46. So that has expanded every year that we've done it, and more people. We've got several phone calls this past year, people wanting to be involved and wanting to bring their cars up. And I said, well, the pandemic, we're not going to be able to do it. Stone Ridge won't let us do it this year, but our plan is to do it next year for sure. So,
and then we have the auction at the car show.
Yeah, so we do a silent auction and a live auction at the car show again, things that are donated, and we've had some pretty awesome things that have been donated to us to auction off. So that's kind of how our fundraising goes outside of the grants. Those two events is what makes Firefighter Angel Foundation and our donors throughout the community. So Kelly also has another job that she does outside of being on the board, because she didn't get paid for that one, so she can't pay the bills off of the foundation. So talk a little bit about what you do with the DEA and your role there.
Sure. So I left the district in February to take on a contracting position with the DEA, and they brought a program here to Yavapai County called Operation Engage. And basically, the thought behind the program is DEA does a lot of enforcement. Obviously, that's their mission, but they want to do some prevention work, and they want to bring some federal dollars that they have to communities that need some support. And so they brought Operation Engage up here to help support our law enforcement and our prevention communities with some programming, with some support dealing with opioids and illegal fentanyl. So we have some school programs that we're doing. We are in the community at stakeholder meetings. We're having a Dea Citizens Academy in September. And the main goal is just to educate anyone and everyone in this community about the dangers so that they can educate the kids to just stay away from it.
Yeah, and as most of you know, we've had a huge influx of that in the past year or so. And so the program that she's involved in, we're trying to minimize that and trying to just make awareness that the dangers that are involved in it and trying to get kids to get them to different directions than with that. And the Citizens Academy that she talked about, she was telling me a little bit earlier about it. If you're involved or want to be involved, yeah, it's a great program. There's some pretty cool things that they're going to do. I won't let the cat out of the bag on any of that, but it's going to be very fun. So if you're interested in that, how do they find out information on that if they're interested?
So there's a microsite called gavapai.dea.gov, and we're posting event information on there and ways to get a hold of me. If they're interested, they can email me at kelly.j.lee@dea.gov, and we can get an application to them when we make that available. It's about next 2 weeks. We're going to start promoting it out to the community.
Okay, perfect. And Tiffany was a teacher for a long time, and then she decided she wanted to go a different route. So talk a little bit about that and how much you love it right now, loving life right now.
Loving life. I was a teacher I took a couple years off, but I was a teacher for 9 years and decided last February that I was going to go back to school to get my RN. Pharmacology is super fun, and doing it online is super fun.
Yeah. I know some of the phone calls with Tiffany, or when Tammy has you on speakerphone listening to her, you can tell her she's not very happy right now. No, she's studying and taking tests, and good. It's not fun, but in the long run, it'll pay off, and Tiffany will be awesome being a nurse. Yep. So, in closing, we'll talk the Firefighter Angel Foundation. If you want to find out some more information about the foundation, you can go to firefighterangel.org. Our contact information is on there, and any other information that you need, my phone number's on there. Feel free to call me at any time, and I'll answer it for you. If I can't, I'll direct you wherever I need to. But that's it for this week's CAFMA Connect, and thank you to Kelly and thank you to Tiffany. And next week, Chief Freitag will be back.